Far beyond the edge of known space, the Zeldar Empire explored world after world. Their technology could scan the smallest mineral, detect a heartbeat from orbit, and map a planet's defenses in seconds. They had conquered hundreds of worlds, yet one small blue planet made them stop. The scanners showed something strange, something that made even the confident Commander Vurak frown. The readings said the planet was called Earth. It was full of water, oxygen, and life, but there were no global defense grids, no battle fleets, no planetary shields. The computer displayed the result in red text: minimal military presence detected. Vurak leaned closer to the screen. "Impossible," he muttered. "Every world fights to survive. No armies. No war machines." The crew members looked nervous. They had fought many battles, but this reading felt different. The planet was alive, yet silent. The Zeldar command ship, Vanguard of Dominion, moved into orbit above the blue sphere. From high above, Earth looked calm and beautiful. White clouds drifted slowly across green and brown continents. No weapon systems targeted their ship, no alarms, no warning signals. It was as if the planet did not care that an alien fleet hung above it. Commander Vurak stood at the viewing deck, his 4 eyes studying the silent world below. "Strange," he said. "Either they are fools or they hide something." His second officer, Tarek, replied, "Perhaps they destroyed themselves long ago. The energy readings are low, almost primitive." Vurak shook his head. "No. There is movement, millions of signals, spread across the land. They are alive. But they are not afraid." The ship's AI confirmed that the planet had communication networks, electricity, and even space stations. But none of it looked military. There were no global defense towers, no massive weapons, no battle stations in orbit. It looked like a world at peace, a weak world. The commander ordered a deep scan. A beam of blue light spread from the ship, touching the edge of the atmosphere. It moved carefully across oceans, mountains, and cities. The computers reported results: no nuclear launch systems active. No anti-space weaponry. No planetary shields. Minimal combat fleets detected. The report ended with the same sentence: low threat level. For the Zeldar, this was both good and bad news. Good because conquest would be easy. Bad because it made no sense. Vurak had seen desperate species before, creatures who fought with rocks when their weapons failed. But these humans had built a world of machines, energy, and cities, yet no defense worth mentioning. "Prepare a probe," Vurak ordered. "Let's see what they really are." The metallic drone, shaped like a black sphere, detached from the ship and entered the atmosphere, leaving a trail of white fire behind it. It landed near a quiet human settlement, a place full of trees, small houses, and open skies. The drone's cameras showed men, women, and children walking calmly. They didn't panic. Some even pointed at the glowing object with curiosity. Vurak watched the feed with interest. They see an unknown machine fall from the sky, and yet they don't run. They don't scream. Tarek replied softly, "They act like they have seen worse." The commander ordered the probe to scan one of the humans. The beam passed over a man standing in a field. The result was shocking. "No implants, no cybernetics, no enhancements," said the AI. "This creature is entirely biological. Unarmed." Vurak frowned. "And yet he looks directly into the camera. As if he knows we are watching." The man on the screen tilted his head slightly, as if hearing something the others couldn't. Then the probe's sensors flickered. Static filled the display. The energy levels around the human spiked for a second, like a heartbeat made of light. The crew gasped. "Commander, the probe system just overloaded," shouted an engineer. "Energy feedback from the target." Vurak's eyes widened. "From the human? That's not possible." The feed returned for a brief moment before cutting off completely. The drone's systems had melted. The black sphere lay smoking in the field, and the man was gone. "They are not primitive," Vurak said slowly. Something is wrong with our understanding. He looked again at the peaceful blue planet. The humans below went on with their lives, as if nothing had happened. No fear, no reaction, no counterattack. It was as if they hadn't even noticed an alien machine exploding in their sky. Vurak called a meeting of his senior officers. "This planet is not what it seems," he said. "We will send a small landing party. Capture a few subjects and bring them aboard." The officers hesitated. "Commander, our scanners show no weapons, but the probe." "I know what the probe showed," Vurak interrupted. "That is why we must see for ourselves." The Zeldar were proud conquerors. They did not believe in superstition or fear. Yet, even they could feel something unsettling about this world. It was too quiet, too calm. The silence was heavy, like the calm before a storm. As the landing craft descended through the clouds, the Earth's atmosphere glowed with soft colors, pink, orange, and blue. It looked beautiful, fragile even. But the deeper they went, the stronger the feeling became. The soldiers felt pressure in their chests, a strange warmth spreading in their minds. One whispered through the comms, "Commander, I feel something watching us." Vurak ignored it. "Stay focused." The craft touched down near a human town. Everything looked ordinary. Cars, houses, people walking on the streets. The humans turned their heads as the craft opened, revealing tall armored aliens. Yet instead of running, they simply stood still, watching. Some even took pictures with small devices. No screams, no panic, only quiet curiosity. Vurak stepped forward, confused. The humans looked directly at him. Their eyes were steady, unafraid. He felt a strange wave of emotion, like being seen, not physically, but deeply. His heart rate increased. He raised his hand and ordered his soldiers to scan them again. The readings showed nothing unusual, yet the air felt thick with unseen energy. A little girl smiled at him. It was a small, innocent smile, but it made Vurak step back. His mind filled with flashes, images of fire, struggle, and endless human faces standing together. For a moment, he saw armies made not of machines, but of willpower. He blinked and the vision vanished. The humans still stood quietly, watching. Back aboard the command ship, the scientists examined the data. There was a surge of unknown energy around the commander, one reported. It wasn't external. It came from his own neural signals. Something triggered it. Vurak listened, silent. He could still feel that strange presence in his thoughts. "They have no weapons," he said finally, "but they are not defenseless." The room grew quiet. Outside, Earth continued to spin peacefully in the darkness of space. To any other eyes, it looked weak and harmless. But to Commander Vurak, it now felt like a sleeping giant, silent, calm, and waiting. Commander Vurak could not rest after what happened on the surface. The probe's destruction still played in his mind like a whisper that would not stop. He had faced wars across dozens of galaxies, crushed empires, and broken civilizations, but never had he felt such quiet unease. Earth looked weak, but something about its silence was wrong. He ordered his landing team to prepare again. "This time," he said, "we will not just observe. We will capture and study them." The soldiers obeyed, their metallic armor reflecting the dim blue light of the control room. They were the Zeldar's finest, disciplined, fearless, and loyal. Yet even they felt strange about this mission. Their scanners had shown no weapons, no threats, and still, the air around Earth seemed heavy, like something invisible was watching. The landing craft broke through the clouds once more. The surface came into view, a small human settlement surrounded by trees and fields. From above, it looked peaceful, harmless, even beautiful. The commander's plan was simple: take a few humans quietly and return to orbit before anyone noticed. But Earth had other plans. As the ship touched down near the outskirts of the town, night had fallen. Lights glowed softly in windows. Crickets sang in the grass. The aliens moved silently through the shadows, their armor blending into the darkness. They saw a man walking down a dirt road, holding a small glowing device in his hand, a phone. He was alone. Perfect target. Two soldiers approached quickly and grabbed him. The man didn't scream. He just looked at them with wide, calm eyes. "Don't fight," one soldier said in a harsh mechanical voice. But the man didn't seem afraid. Instead, he tilted his head slightly and said, "You shouldn't be here." His tone was soft, almost kind, but the soldiers froze. A sudden wave of heat spread through their armor. Their vision blurred. Pain exploded in their heads, as if something inside their minds was burning. They let the man go, stumbling backward. He simply stood there, watching them. Then he whispered one word, "Leave." The soldiers fell to their knees, gasping. Commander Vurak, watching from the ship through their helmet feeds, was shocked. What happened? Did he attack? The sensors showed no physical strike, no energy weapon, nothing. Yet both soldiers' neural readings spiked dangerously high. One of them screamed. He looked into me. He's inside my head." The commander ordered a retreat. "Return to the craft. Now." The soldiers staggered back into the ship, trembling. Their armor was intact, but their minds were not. When the craft lifted off, the man on the road simply turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness as if nothing had happened. Vurak's jaw tightened. Replay the recording. The footage showed the man's calm face, his steady gaze, his soft voice, and then static. The moment he spoke, all instruments failed for 3 seconds. When the picture returned, the soldiers were on the ground. "No technology detected," the science officer said. "No weapon, no energy surge. Just emotion." Vurak looked at him sharply. "Emotion cannot destroy metal." The officer swallowed. "It did, Commander. Or something like it did." Vurak decided to escalate. "Bring me a live subject," he said. "A human who can be studied. We must understand what they are." This time, the landing team went to a different region, a coastal city glowing with lights. They moved through narrow streets, scanning for isolated individuals. The humans ignored them completely, thinking they were part of some strange experiment or movie shoot. Eventually, they found a woman standing near the ocean, looking up at the stars. She didn't run when the soldiers approached. "You come from there," she said quietly, pointing at the sky. "Don't you?" Her calmness was unsettling. They surrounded her and activated the stasis field. The blue light wrapped around her body, freezing her in place. For the first time, a human was captured. The ship rose quickly and returned to orbit. In the containment chamber, Commander Vurak studied her through the glass. "Name?" he asked. She looked directly at him. "Lena," she said. Her voice was clear, steady, almost too calm for someone in captivity. "Do you know who we are?" he asked. "I know what you think you are," she replied. The commander frowned. "You have no armies. No war machines. How do you defend this world?" Lena smiled faintly. "We don't need them." Vurak turned to his scientists. "Begin the scan." Bright light covered the chamber. The machines measured her heart rate, brain activity, cellular energy. Everything looked normal, until the readings spiked without warning. The glass around her began to vibrate. Lights flickered. The power core in the lab hummed dangerously. One of the scientists shouted, "Commander, her brainwaves are creating interference with our systems." Vurak yelled, "Shut it down." The lights went out for 5 seconds. When they returned, Lena was still standing, unharmed, but the machines around her were smoking. "You can't measure what you don't understand," she said softly. The commander's heart pounded. "What are you?" She looked at him again. "Human." He felt something in her voice, a pulse, like a vibration deep inside his chest. It wasn't fear. It was connection. "You attacked my soldiers," Vurak said. "No," she replied. "They attacked themselves. They saw what they feared most." The words confused him. He turned away, pretending not to feel the strange heaviness in his mind. The scientists argued quietly. "Commander, her presence affects our ship's energy. Even speaking to her changes frequency readings. This is not possible." Vurak glared at them. "Then make it possible. Find out how she does it." But inside, he knew this was different from any species they had conquered. Humans didn't fight with weapons. They fought with something unseen, something that reached beyond physical strength. Hours later, Vurak returned to his private quarters. The image of Lena's calm eyes haunted him. He tried to rest, but his thoughts were loud. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes, humans across the planet looking up at the stars, each one aware of something coming. It felt as though the planet itself was awake, breathing, waiting. He stood and looked out the window at Earth. From here, it looked peaceful again. No war, no armies, just a world sleeping under its own sky. But now he knew better. There was power in their calmness, danger in their peace. His soldiers had been broken by a glance. His ship had trembled from a single word. Vurak realized that he had made a mistake. He had come expecting to find weakness. Instead, he had found something far more dangerous, a world that didn't need machines to fight back. Commander Vurak stood in the observation deck of his ship, staring at the small glass chamber where the human woman, Lena, was held. Her calm eyes never moved away from him. She sat quietly, her hands resting on her knees, as if she were at peace despite being trapped in the heart of an alien warship. Around her, the lab glowed with faint green light. Dozens of Zeldar scientists worked silently, studying every signal, every breath she took. They had tried every kind of test, chemical, biological, and neural scans, but the results were the same. She was ordinary. Her body had no implants, no enhancements, no hidden devices. Yet every time she spoke, something strange happened. Their instruments flickered, energy readings spiked, and sometimes their minds felt heavy, as if invisible pressure filled the room. "Commander," said one scientist nervously, "we cannot explain her effect. She produces no measurable energy, but her presence alone disturbs our systems." Vurak turned to him. "Then keep studying. There must be an explanation." Inside the chamber, Lena watched them quietly. "Why do you fear what you don't understand?" she asked. Her voice echoed softly through the comm channel. The scientists froze. Even Vurak felt his chest tighten for a second, a vibration pulsing behind his heart. "We don't fear you," he said sharply. "We are studying you." She smiled faintly. "Study won't help you. You're looking in the wrong place." Vurak frowned. "And where should we look?" She lifted her head slowly. "Inside yourself." Her words hit the air like ripples in water. One of the monitors nearby blinked rapidly, then shut down completely. The scientist cursed under his breath. "Commander," her voice frequency just disrupted 3 systems again. "We're losing data." Vurak slammed his hand on the console. "Stabilize it. I want answers, not excuses." They moved Lena to a reinforced chamber, one made of null steel, impervious to psychic interference, at least in theory. But even there, the readings continued to shift unpredictably. One moment her energy signature was flat, almost lifeless. The next, it spiked so high the sensors couldn't record it. "Commander," said Tarek, Vurak's second officer, "this creature, she is not using technology. It's like her emotions changed the laws of energy." Vurak glared at him. "Emotions are not power, Tarek. They are weakness." Tarek hesitated. "Then why do we feel them?" The commander ignored the question. He turned back to the glass. "You said humans have no need for machines," he said to Lena. "How do you fight?" She looked straight into his eyes. "We don't fight to destroy. We fight to protect. That's the difference." As she spoke, the ship's lights dimmed slightly. The hum of the engines deepened, as though the ship itself was listening. One of the technicians gasped. "Commander, background energy levels are rising." Something's resonating through the hull. Vurak felt it too, a low pulse traveling through the metal floors, like a slow heartbeat. Lena's eyes glowed faintly for a moment. "Do you feel it now?" she whispered. "That's Earth." The commander froze. "What do you mean?" "It's awake," she said simply. "You touched it, and now it knows you're here." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He turned to the nearest console. "Cut the communication feed." The audio link shut off, but the heartbeat didn't stop. It grew stronger, echoing through the ship's corridors. The crew began to report strange sensations. Some said they could hear whispers in their heads, soft, unfamiliar voices speaking in the human language. Others felt sudden memories that weren't theirs, images of oceans, cities, faces of people they had never met. The entire ship seemed to be under a psychological storm. "Commander, something is connecting with us," shouted one officer. "It's not mechanical, it's mental." Vurak grabbed the console, his claws digging into the metal. "Contain it. Disconnect the chamber from the ship's systems." Sparks flew as engineers worked frantically to isolate the lab. But when they cut the power, the lights didn't go out, they grew brighter. Lena's voice came through the silence. "You can't stop connection. It's what makes us human." Suddenly, the glass of the chamber began to vibrate. Lines of light crawled across its surface like veins of lightning. The energy readings shot off the charts. Vurak ordered the emergency field activated, but before they could engage it, a wave of invisible force burst from the chamber. The scientists were thrown back. Screens exploded in sparks. The hum of the engines faltered. Lena was still standing, her eyes calm, her voice steady. "You see," she said, "we don't need weapons. We are the weapon." Then the light vanished as quickly as it came. The systems rebooted. She was still inside the chamber, unharmed. The damage outside, however, was real. Half the lab's equipment was destroyed. After several minutes, silence returned. The crew looked shaken. One of the scientists whispered, "Commander, this defies all laws of physics." She manipulated energy with no visible source. Vurak didn't answer. He could still feel her words in his mind, echoing softly like a memory. "It's awake." Could she mean the planet itself? No world could be alive in that way, or could it? He remembered the man from the first encounter, the way he had made his soldiers collapse without touching them. It was the same. Humans could somehow channel emotion, will, and thought into something tangible. Something powerful. Vurak stood in silence for a long time. His empire had built fleets, weapons, and machines capable of destroying suns. But all that seemed meaningless now. These humans had something the Zeldar could neither build nor control, a force that came from within. "Commander," said Tarek quietly, "what if this power is not just hers? What if they all have it?" Vurak turned to look at Earth through the wide viewing window. The planet glowed softly beneath its atmosphere, calm and quiet, like a sleeping beast. "If they all have it," he said, his voice low, "then we are already at war." He decided to test one more thing. "Send a low-level thought signal into her chamber," he ordered. The technician hesitated. "Commander, a thought signal is used for telepathic species." "She isn't. Do it." The technician obeyed. The ship's neural transmitter emitted a faint psychic pulse aimed at Lena's mind. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the feedback hit, hard. The entire ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Lights flared red. The console exploded, throwing the technician to the floor. "Commander!" shouted Tarek. She reversed the signal. Vurak stumbled as the power flickered. Through the chaos, he heard her voice, not through speakers, but directly in his mind. "You shouldn't have come here, Commander. The more you push, the more you wake us." The connection broke. The lights stabilized. Silence returned once again. Vurak stood frozen, staring at the chamber. Lena's eyes were still on him, calm and knowing. He felt something inside himself shift, a sense of fear he had never known before. For the first time in his life, he understood that power didn't always roar or shine. Sometimes it was quiet. Sometimes it smiled. Sometimes it looked like a human. And somewhere far below, on the surface of that peaceful blue world, millions of other eyes looked up at the sky, sensing something above them. The first spark of awakening had begun. The ship floated in silence above Earth, but that silence was not peaceful anymore. It felt alive, humming with something the Zeldar could not define. Commander Vurak stood before the wide viewing glass, staring down at the planet that had begun to haunt his every thought. The blue oceans shimmered beneath layers of white clouds, cities sparkled faintly in the darkness, and yet beneath that beauty, he sensed movement, something not physical, but mental. Inside the containment chamber, Lena sat cross-legged, her eyes closed, her breathing steady. Ever since the last experiment, the ship had been behaving strangely. Systems flickered at random, navigation instruments gave false readings, and the crew reported hearing faint voices when they tried to sleep. Even the commander's dreams had changed. He saw flashes of light, crowds of humans standing together, their minds connected like threads of energy. He would wake up sweating, his heart racing, the sound of Lena's voice echoing in his mind. "It's awake." Vurak had seen many worlds rebel, but never like this. He decided to question her again. The guards entered the chamber, weapons ready, though everyone knew they were useless. The commander's voice was calm but sharp. "What did you do to my ship?" Lena opened her eyes. "I didn't do anything. You connected yourself to us when you tried to read my mind. You infected us," he snapped. She shook her head gently. "No. You listened. And now you can hear." Vurak slammed his fist against the glass. "Hear what?" "Each other," she said softly. "Every thought leaves a trace. Every fear, every hope. You built walls inside your mind to stay strong, but humans tear those walls down. That's why you can feel us now." Her words hit like quiet thunder. The commander wanted to deny it, but deep down, he knew something inside him had changed. He could feel emotions not his own, faint but real, fear, love, determination, all flowing through the air around him like static energy. The scientists confirmed that the ship was now receiving weak energy pulses coming directly from Earth. "Commander," said Tarek, his voice uneasy, "we're detecting neural signals spreading through their population. Billions of faint transmissions, all syncing to a single frequency." "Explain," Vurak said. "It's like their minds are linking. We think it started when the human woman sent that surge of energy in the lab. Now it's spreading across the planet." The commander leaned closer. "Are they communicating?" "Not with technology. With thought." The words filled the room with cold silence. The Zeldar had never encountered such a thing. Collective thought existed among insectoid species, but this was different. These humans were not a hive. They were individuals, yet somehow they were connecting by emotion alone. Below, on Earth, strange phenomena began to occur. People across continents started to feel sudden waves of emotion that weren't their own. A mother in Japan felt the fear of a child in Africa. A soldier in America felt the courage of a stranger in India. No one could explain it, but everyone felt it. Scientists called it mass empathy, though that name didn't capture its true nature. Lena could feel it from orbit. Her pulse matched the rhythm of billions of others. She smiled faintly. "They know," she whispered. "They can see you now." The commander heard her words through the comm feed and turned sharply. "What do you mean, they see us?" She looked up at him. "I told you before, Commander. When one of us awakens, the others follow." At that exact moment, the sensors detected a surge from the surface, massive bursts of mental energy rising into the atmosphere. Vurak watched as the readings lit up every screen. "What is this?" he demanded. Tarek's voice trembled. "It's them, Commander. The entire planet is resonating. It's like a global signal." Vurak's jaw tightened. "Shut it down. We can't. Tarek said helplessly. It's not radio. It's biological. Lena's voice came through again. You can't stop a thought once it's shared. And now, every human is sharing the same one. Vurak turned to her chamber, his eyes burning with frustration. And what thought is that? That they are not afraid, she said. Down on Earth, millions of people began to look up at the night sky at the same time. Some felt an unexplainable pull, like a voice calling from above. Without words, they all understood the same truth. Something was coming, and they would face it together. The Zeldar ships detected sudden shifts in electromagnetic patterns, but none matched known physics. It was like the planet itself was radiating a pulse of emotion strong enough to touch the vacuum of space. The crew felt it too. Some began to shake, unable to separate their own thoughts from the flood of human feelings invading their minds. One soldier dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, whispering, "They're not weak. They're awake." Vurak felt his control slipping. "Block the connection," he shouted. "Seal off the ship's neural core." Engineers scrambled to follow orders, but every time they tried to isolate the systems, something, or someone, rerouted the commands. It was as if the ship itself refused to obey. Then, through the static of the comms, a soft voice filled every corner of the ship. It wasn't Lena's voice, it was hundreds, maybe thousands, overlapping. "Leave," they said. "This world is not yours." The sound was gentle, but it carried the weight of oceans. Some crew members screamed, others froze in place. Vurak clutched his head as images flooded his mind, flashes of human history, of war, love, death, hope, all tangled together into one burning truth. Humanity had survived everything, and they would not fall quietly. Lena stood in her chamber, her hands glowing faintly. The walls of the cell cracked as invisible energy pulsed outward. The lights in the room flickered violently. "Commander," shouted Tarek. "She's amplifying the signal." Vurak looked at her, his fear turning into fury. "Enough," he roared. "You think emotion can win against power? We are the Zeldar. We command stars." Lena looked at him sadly. "And yet you've forgotten what power truly means." The glass shattered, but instead of flying outward, the fragments floated midair, suspended in a silent field of energy. Lena stepped forward, her eyes glowing with soft blue light. "You cannot conquer what you don't understand, Commander. You came here looking for weakness. What you found was unity." The ship trembled as waves of energy surged from Earth, flowing through the atmosphere like invisible tides. Every satellite, every probe, every sensor burned out one by one. The planet below shone brighter, a faint halo of light surrounding it as billions of human minds synchronized for the first time in history. Vurak watched in disbelief. "They're joining together," he whispered. Tarek nodded, his face pale. "Every human thought, every emotion, they're merging." The commander felt a presence touch his mind, not violent, but impossibly vast. He saw through human eyes, children laughing, lovers holding hands, soldiers standing guard, teachers, builders, dreamers, all sharing the same heartbeat. And within that heartbeat, he felt something stronger than any weapon he had ever known. He stumbled backward, breathing hard. The human voice in his head whispered once more, calm and clear. "Now you understand. Every heart on this world is a soldier. Every thought is a shield. You cannot fight what is already won." As the glow around Earth intensified, the Zeldar fleet began to lose power. The darkness of space stretched endlessly around the Zeldar fleet, but it was no longer silent. The hum of alien engines had been replaced by an unseen vibration, a low pulse that seemed to come from the planet below. Commander Vurak stood rigid on the command deck, his hands gripping the rail, his eyes fixed on the glowing blue world beneath them. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was alive with light, with thought, with something far beyond their comprehension. Every sensor on the ship was screaming warnings, yet none could identify a physical threat. The readings showed fluctuating energy fields blanketing the atmosphere, rising and falling like waves. "Commander," said Tarek, his voice shaky, "our scanners can't lock onto anything solid." It's like the planet itself is changing. Vurak didn't move. He could feel it too, a strange pressure pressing against his mind, like whispers trying to break through his thoughts. He had fought against armies, destroyed civilizations, but never had he felt such invisible power. "They're connecting," Lena's voice echoed behind him. She was free now, standing at the edge of the observation platform, calm and unguarded. No one dared to stop her. Every human heart beats as one. Pain, fear, hope, it all flows together now. Vurak turned sharply. "You did this. You infected them," he shouted. "No," Lena said quietly. "They were always connected. You just forced them to remember." The commander's mind raced. He couldn't accept it. How could a species with no fleets, no shields, no weapons hold such power? He stared at her, his voice low and cold. "If what you say is true, then they are dangerous." "Only to those who bring harm," she replied. "We don't fight for control. We fight to survive." Her words made the deck tremble. For a second, the air felt thicker, almost alive, filled with raw emotion. Tarek stumbled as static electricity crackled along the walls. The ship's lights flickered from white to blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Commander," one officer called out, "the ship's power levels are fluctuating again. The energy surge is coming directly from the planet." Vurak barked. "Counter it. Boost the magnetic shields." But even as they tried, the controls responded slower and slower, as though the ship itself resisted their commands. Below them, Earth shone brighter. Entire continents glimmered faintly in the night, not with fire or technology, but with energy that came from the minds of billions. People everywhere stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Some didn't know why, but they felt something awaken deep inside. In cities and villages, in deserts and frozen lands, humans felt connected, each heartbeat echoing in unison across the globe. For the first time in history, they weren't separate nations or individuals. They were one collective consciousness, aware, awake, and strong. Lena closed her eyes, her voice soft. "Can you feel it, Commander? That's not an army. That's humanity remembering who they are." Vurak stared at her, unable to respond. Deep inside, he did feel something, an echo that wasn't his own. He felt courage, grief, and an overwhelming sense of unity. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. But to the Zeldar, even peace could feel like a weapon. The alien fleet shifted uneasily in orbit. The other captains reported system failures, strange hallucinations, and rising panic among their crews. Some heard voices calling their names. Others saw visions of human eyes watching them from the dark. One ship fired a warning shot at the planet, its plasma beam tearing through the atmosphere, but it never hit the ground. The beam slowed, twisted, and dissolved into light before vanishing completely. The ship's sensors showed no resistance field, no shield, just empty air. "Impossible," Tarek whispered. "The laws of physics don't allow that." Vurak's voice was low, almost a whisper. "Maybe your laws don't." He could no longer deny that something greater was happening. On the planet's surface, humans gathered in large open spaces, streets, beaches, rooftops, all of them staring upward. Many were afraid at first, but the fear didn't last. Instead, a strange calm spread across the world. People began to speak softly to each other, without sound. They felt each other's emotions, saw flashes of each other's memories. Pain shared became lighter, fear shared became strength. The power grew with every heartbeat, every connection. The collective mind of humanity began to expand, stretching beyond the atmosphere, reaching for the stars. Lena raised her hand toward Earth, her voice trembling with awe. "They're awake now. Every mind, every heart, one voice." Inside the ship, alarms blared as energy levels continued to climb. The Zeldar scientists shouted data across the room, but none of it made sense. "Commander, the energy pattern matches no known source. It's not radiation or electromagnetic, it's pure mental resonance." Vurak clenched his fists. "Then how do we fight it?" No one answered. One of the younger soldiers whispered. Maybe we can't. Vurak glared at him, but deep down, he knew it was true. This wasn't a battle of weapons or strength. It was something deeper, something spiritual. He looked again at Lena, who stood still, her eyes glowing faintly with blue light. This isn't war, she said softly. It's evolution. Suddenly, the ship's walls began to vibrate. The pulse from Earth grew stronger, faster. Every light on the control deck turned pure white. Outside, the rest of the fleet started to drift, their engines dead, their systems failing one by one. The massive warships looked powerless against the glowing sphere below. Lena's voice echoed in every mind on the ship, not through sound, but through thought. You thought strength was in machines. You thought control made you safe. But true power lives in the heart. Vurak tried to resist, gripping his head as visions filled his mind, humans standing shoulder to shoulder across time, from ancient warriors with swords to modern scientists with dreams. Every one of them burned with the same will to survive. The commander's legs weakened. Stop this, he roared. You can't win by feelings. Lena's expression softened. You still don't understand. We don't want to win. We want to live. The pulse reached its peak. Earth's glow flared, sending waves of invisible force through orbit. The ships rocked violently. Sparks flew across the decks. For a moment, everything froze, sound, light, motion, then a great calm settled over the fleet. The Zeldar soldiers dropped their weapons, stunned, their eyes wide. They felt peace, something they had never known. It wasn't submission. It was understanding. Lena turned toward the commander, her voice barely above a whisper. This is what happens when humanity stands together. This is their weapon, the power to unite. Vurak could not move. His mind was flooded with human emotion, love, grief, kindness, rage, all flowing together in perfect harmony. For the first time, he saw what made them unstoppable. It wasn't technology. It wasn't strength. It was connection. Every heart, Lena said quietly, is part of the same storm. The commander stared at her, speechless, as the glow of Earth continued to pulse. And for the first time in Zeldar history, he felt fear, not of death, but of something far greater. Humanity had awakened, and the universe would never be the same again. The Zeldar fleet drifted in silence, their once mighty warships now floating helplessly above the shining blue planet that defied all logic. Commander Vurak stood on the observation deck, his face pale under the flickering light. The systems were offline, the weapons frozen, the engines dead. It wasn't a physical attack that disabled them, it was something unseen, something that reached straight into their minds. Across the command bridge, the crew sat in stunned quiet, their thoughts no longer their own. They could feel emotions that didn't belong to them, love, courage, sorrow, all flowing from the world below. They're inside us, whispered one of the soldiers. Their thoughts. I can feel them. Vurak clenched his jaw, his mind spinning. Control your thoughts. This is a psychological trick, he barked, but even he didn't sound convinced. Every time he tried to focus, waves of human emotion pushed back, flooding him with warmth and pain in equal measure. Lena stood behind him, her eyes glowing faintly blue. It's not a trick, Commander. It's truth. You can't shut it out because it's already part of you. Vurak turned sharply. You want us to believe that this chaos, is power? Lena smiled sadly. You call it chaos because you fear what you can't control. But humans don't need control to be strong. They thrive in chaos. They grow from pain. Her words echoed through the silence, and for the first time, the alien commander felt uncertainty rising in his chest. The Zeldar were a race built on precision and logic, but this human force, was unpredictable and emotional, yet somehow unstoppable. The ship trembled again as a surge of energy pulsed from the planet below. The holographic display flickered to life, showing bright tendrils of light extending from Earth's surface, reaching into orbit like invisible roots. Commander! Shouted Tarek. Something's happening on the surface. We're detecting massive energy concentrations in their neural fields. Vurak frowned. In their what? Their brains, sir, Tarek said nervously. It's like, they're syncing up, but this time it's global. Lena stepped closer to the glass, her expression filled with quiet wonder. It's happening. The pulse. The what? Vurak demanded. It's when human emotion peaks, she said. When our minds connect completely. It only happens when we face something greater than ourselves. The deck began to shake as lights dimmed. From the planet's surface, streams of soft blue light rose into the sky, spiraling like auroras. Cities glowed faintly, not from electricity, but from the shared resonance of billions of living beings. People all over Earth were no longer individuals. They were one consciousness, one pulse, one voice. Children in Africa dreamed the same dreams as elders in Europe. Soldiers in Asia shared memories with farmers in America. Every human mind had become a single, vast network of life. On board the Zeldar ship, the crew felt it wash over them like a tide. The fear that once gripped them faded, replaced by an overwhelming calm. Even the commander could feel it now, the quiet strength of billions of hearts beating together. Lena turned to him. Do you understand now? This is the weapon you feared. The strength of connection. You came here looking for armies, but what you found is something your technology can never measure. Vurak's voice dropped to a whisper. And what do they plan to do with it? Nothing, she said. They don't need to do anything. Just by existing together, they change everything around them. The other Zeldar ships began sending frantic messages across the fleet. Our systems are malfunctioning. Crew losing control. Unknown energy entering neural circuits. Panic spread quickly. Vurak opened a channel. All ships, hold position. Do not engage. But it was too late. The pulse from Earth reached its peak, a single wave of energy sweeping across orbit. It wasn't destructive, it was awakening. The alien ships glowed faintly as the energy passed through them, and for a moment, every being aboard felt the full weight of humanity's spirit, every tragedy, every victory, every heartbeat since the dawn of time. It was too much. Many fell to their knees, overwhelmed by emotions they could not process. They saw flashes of human history, wars fought for love, sacrifices made for family, endless struggles to survive and hope again. The Zeldar, who believed emotion was weakness, suddenly understood it was the source of unbreakable strength. Vurak's vision blurred. He saw Earth not as an enemy, but as a living memory, full of pain yet radiant with resilience. He saw 1,000 generations of humans building, dreaming, and fighting to protect one another. It shook him to his core. How can they endure so much and still rise? He whispered. Lena's voice was calm. Because that's what we are. You see despair, but we see purpose. Every loss teaches us to hold tighter. Every wound reminds us we're alive. Every scar is a promise that we won't give up. Her words struck deep. The commander's chest tightened with emotions he didn't recognize. Guilt, awe, respect. For the first time in his life, he lowered his weapon. Then what happens now? He asked quietly. Lena looked toward the planet below. Now they decide what kind of world they want to be. The pulse began to fade, the light softening, but the connection remained. Humanity was still one mind, one will. On Earth, people began to rebuild not as divided nations but as a single species aware of their shared strength. The wars and hatred that once defined them began to lose meaning. They had seen the truth, they were stronger together than apart. And above them, the Zeldar watched in silence, their fear replaced by something else, understanding. Vurak finally turned to Lena. We came to conquer. But now I wonder if we were meant to learn. She smiled faintly. Every invader learns, eventually. Some through pain, others through revelation. You chose revelation. The commander looked at his trembling hands. Your kind will change everything. Lena nodded slowly. That's what we do. We adapt, we survive, and when pushed, we awaken. The ship's systems began to power up again, but this time without commands. It was as if the ship itself responded to the calm that now filled its crew. Vurak exhaled slowly. Tell your people we will leave your world. Lena shook her head. You don't need to tell them. They already know. The commander looked puzzled until he realized she was right. Even now, he could feel distant thoughts touching his own, soft whispers of gratitude, curiosity, forgiveness. The humans were speaking to him, not in words, but through pure feeling. He turned to his bridge crew. Prepare to retreat, he ordered softly. No one objected. The war was over, though no battle had been fought. As the ship slowly turned away from Earth, Vurak cast one last glance at the glowing blue sphere. He no longer saw it as a primitive world but as something sacred, a planet that had transformed its greatest weakness into its ultimate power. Humanity had shown him that strength wasn't found in destruction, but in connection. Lena watched as the alien fleet drifted farther into the distance. They'll tell others, she whispered. And the universe will finally learn what Earth truly is. As the stars swallowed the retreating ships, Earth's glow dimmed to its natural hue, peaceful once again. The pulse subsided, but the memory remained in every human heart. The Zeldar fleet drifted silently through the void, leaving the blue planet behind. For the first time in centuries, they were not returning home as conquerors but as witnesses. Commander Vurak sat alone in his quarters, staring at the holographic display that still showed Earth glowing faintly in the distance. The memories of what he had felt there would not fade. The emotions, the unity, the unbearable weight of human consciousness pressing against his mind. He could still hear the echoes of their collective voice whispering softly, "We are one." His hands trembled as he deactivated the display. His mind had been trained for war, but the experience had left a mark deeper than any wound. He no longer understood what victory meant. Across the fleet, the crew was quiet. No one celebrated survival. They all felt changed, haunted by the same inexplicable connection that refused to fade. Even light years away from Earth, they could still sense faint traces of it, as though the human presence had followed them across space. Tarek entered the commander's chamber, his eyes weary. Sir, the fleet is stabilized. Systems are back online. We're heading toward neutral orbit. Vurak nodded without turning. And the crew? Uneasy, Tarek admitted. They're different. Some say they can still hear human voices when they close their eyes. The commander finally faced him. Do you? Tarek hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes, Commander. It's faint, but it's there. It's not words. More like feelings. Vurak sighed heavily. Then the infection wasn't limited to our systems. It's not an infection, Tarek said quietly. It's something else. Something that doesn't feel wrong. The commander frowned, but he didn't argue. Deep down, he knew Tarek was right. It wasn't corruption, it was influence. The humans hadn't destroyed them, they had changed them. Meanwhile, on Earth, the aftermath of the pulse left humanity in a strange, calm silence. The glow that once surrounded the planet faded, but the unity remained. People no longer felt entirely alone inside their minds. A faint thread connected them all, invisible yet undeniable. Empathy spread like wildfire. Violence dropped, wars halted, and people began to work together as if guided by instinct. Scientists couldn't explain it. Politicians couldn't control it. It wasn't magic. It was evolution. Lena stood on the shore of a quiet sea, watching the stars, knowing the Zeldar fleet was out there, carrying the story of what had happened. They'll tell others, she whispered. And others will come. She didn't say it with fear, but with acceptance. Humanity was no longer vulnerable. They had found their voice in the cosmos. High above the planet, satellites that once transmitted data now hummed with faint residual energy from the pulse. Some recorded strange patterns, fluctuations resembling brainwave signals, spreading outward into deep space. It was as if humanity's awakening was calling to something beyond the stars. And somewhere, far from Earth, other civilizations began to listen. In the far reaches of the galaxy, distant sensors picked up fragments of that same signal, a heartbeat that wasn't mechanical, but alive. Some feared it. Others were drawn to it. The universe had noticed Earth. Back aboard the Zeldar flagship, the scientists struggled to categorize what they had witnessed. "It violates every known law of communication," said one. "How can an entire species synchronize thoughts?" Another responded, "Perhaps thought itself is the law we never understood." Vurak listened in silence. For the first time in his life, he didn't have an answer. He rose slowly and looked out the viewport again. The stars stretched endlessly before him, but somehow they felt different now, less distant, more alive. "What if we were wrong about what intelligence means?" he murmured. Tarek looked up at him. "You mean, what if connection is intelligence?" The commander nodded faintly. "Perhaps power was never about domination. Perhaps it's about unity." The silence between them lingered. Then the ship's sensors pinged softly. "Commander," an officer said, "there's a signal." "From where?" "From Earth. It's faint, but consistent." Vurak frowned. "Put it through." The audio filled the command deck, not words, not sound, but a rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. It was soft but steady, echoing through the walls of the ship. Everyone froze, listening. "It's not random," Tarek whispered. "It's directed at us." The pulse grew slightly stronger, and then, faintly, a voice emerged, a woman's voice. "You don't have to be alone." It was Lena. Not a recording, not a transmission, but a thought carried through space. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Vurak closed his eyes, letting the voice wash over him. It wasn't an order. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. "She's reaching out," Tarek said. "But how?" "The connection never broke," Vurak said softly. "We are still part of it." The realization sent a chill through the room. They had left Earth physically, but not mentally. Some of the crew began to cry quietly without knowing why. Others smiled faintly, comforted by the warmth of the shared feeling. Lena's voice came again, softer this time. "You came searching for strength. Now you know where it truly lives." The transmission faded, but the pulse continued. It wasn't human technology. It was human will, alive, patient, infinite. Vurak looked at Tarek. "Record it," he ordered. "The galaxy needs to hear this." Back on Earth, humanity continued to evolve. The connection grew subtler but deeper. People began to dream of the stars, not with fear but with purpose. Children spoke of strange visions, worlds bathed in alien light, beings of thought instead of flesh. Some called them dreams. Others called them messages. Lena knew the truth. The universe was listening now, and Earth's awakening had sent ripples that could never be undone. Humanity was no longer the silent world they once were. They had spoken, and the cosmos had heard. On the edge of the Milky Way, alien races began to whisper about the living world, a planet whose people could touch minds across space. Some wanted to destroy it. Others wanted to join it. But all feared it. For they realized what the Zeldar had learned too late, that humanity's greatest weapon was not destruction but connection. The pulse had shown them that empathy itself could alter reality. As Vurak's fleet drifted farther into the stars, the commander made a decision. "We won't report Earth as a target," he said quietly. "We will report it as sacred." Tarek blinked. "Sacred, sir?" "Yes," Vurak replied. "Because any world that can reach across the stars without fire or war is not to be conquered. It is to be understood." He turned back to the stars, feeling the faint echo of human thought still brushing his mind. "They changed us," he said softly. "Perhaps they'll change the galaxy." As the ship disappeared into the darkness, a faint pulse traveled outward from Earth, stronger this time, reaching farther than ever before. Every star it passed seemed to shimmer faintly, as though answering the call. Humanity had spoken once, and now the universe was beginning to respond. The war was over. But the story of Earth, the world where every human was a weapon of will, love, and unity, had only just begun. The universe was vast and cold, yet now it pulsed with a faint rhythm, a living echo born from a single blue world. Light years away, the Zeldar fleet moved silently through the darkness, its engines repaired but its spirit forever changed. Commander Vurak stood before the main viewport, staring into the endless sea of stars. He could still feel the pulse of Earth inside his mind, soft and steady, like a second heartbeat that refused to fade. It wasn't an invasion. It wasn't a signal in any traditional sense. It was a presence, a memory that lived within them. His crew had stopped calling it the infection. They now called it the echo. It was with them always, gentle, guiding, reminding. Even in the farthest corners of space, the faint hum of humanity whispered through their thoughts. Vurak no longer fought it. Instead, he found comfort in it. For the first time in his life, he understood what peace truly felt like. Tarek approached quietly, holding a datapad. "Commander," he said softly, "the Council is demanding our report. They want to know what happened on Earth." Vurak turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "And what will we tell them?" Tarek hesitated. "The truth." "The truth," Vurak murmured. "That an unarmed world defeated an empire without firing a shot. That emotions became weapons, and empathy became power." He smiled faintly. "They wouldn't believe it." Tarek nodded. "No, sir. They'd call it weakness." "Then let them," Vurak said, his voice steady. "Sometimes weakness is just strength the universe hasn't understood yet." He walked toward the control console, his reflection rippling across the glass. "We will tell them the planet is dangerous, unstable, not to be touched." "A lie," Tarek said softly. "A necessary one," the commander replied. "If they come again, they won't survive what they find." Back on Earth, the world had changed. The skies were clear, the wars had ended, and for the first time in recorded history, nations worked together without the need for treaties or threats. Communication had evolved beyond language. People could feel one another, understand without words. It wasn't perfect, there were still doubts and fears, but they faced them as one. Humanity had learned the cost of division and the power of unity. Children born after the pulse had a strange light in their eyes, an awareness older than their years. Some could sense emotions from miles away. Others could connect with animals, machines, even the faint energy left behind in nature. Evolution had begun to rewrite the human story. Lena, now living quietly in a coastal observatory, spent her nights studying the sky. The stars looked brighter these days, as if the universe was watching back. Sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she could hear faint voices, alien thoughts, distant and curious. The message had spread farther than anyone imagined. She recorded her findings each night, transmitting them into space. "To whoever hears this," she said softly one evening, "we are not your enemies. We don't seek to rule, but to understand. We learned that connection is our greatest power. If you listen, if you feel, you'll understand it too." The message traveled through the void, carried on a current of human thought and will. Across galaxies, it reached civilizations that had never heard of Earth. Some ignored it, fearing its strange resonance. Others paused, listening, wondering. The signal wasn't made of data or code, it was emotion, pure and raw, a universal language that needed no translation. Meanwhile, the Zeldar Council received Vurak's report. The hall was silent as the holographic recording played, images of Earth, the strange glow of the pulse, the disabled fleet. The elder ministers whispered among themselves. "Impossible," one hissed. "A primitive world cannot possess such power." Another added, "It was trickery, a weapon disguised as thought." When the playback ended, the room turned to Vurak. "Commander," said the Supreme Minister, Are you claiming this human emotion is capable of disabling our fleet? Vurak met their gaze calmly. Yes. But it didn't disable us. It changed us. The council erupted in disbelief. You were compromised. Your judgment is clouded. You bring shame to the Zeldar Empire. Vurak waited until the noise subsided, then spoke softly. I bring you truth. You cannot fight what you do not understand. Earth is not a world of soldiers or machines. It is a world of will. And every being on it is a living weapon. His words echoed in the chamber. The council dismissed him, labeling his report psychological contamination, but they could not ignore the data. The readings, the energy spikes, the neural disruptions, it was all real. In secret, some of the younger scientists began to study the transmission left by Earth. They called it the human frequency. What they discovered terrified them. The pulse had not stopped, it was spreading, slowly but steadily, carried through energy fields, wormholes, and starlight. Every civilization that listened long enough began to feel something, a strange pull toward compassion, toward unity. Some tried to shut it out. Others embraced it. And across the galaxy, wars began to quiet. Lena watched these changes unfold from her observatory. News reports spoke of alien signals returning gentle transmissions, of stars flickering in synchronized patterns, as if responding to Earth's heartbeat. Humanity had started something far greater than themselves, a chain reaction of empathy rippling through the cosmos. She smiled faintly, whispering, "We are not alone anymore." At that moment, she felt a familiar presence touch her mind. It was faint, distant, but unmistakable. Vurak. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. Your world has changed us. We are no longer what we were. The council fears you, but some of us, we understand now. Lena closed her eyes, replying through thought, then carry the message. Let them all know there's another way to exist. For a long time, neither spoke again. They didn't need to. The connection said everything. Across space, the Zeldar ships began transmitting fragments of the pulse to other species, not as a weapon, but as a gift. The galaxy started to hum with new harmony. Barriers that had stood for millennia began to crumble, and slowly, a great truth took root among the stars, that the universe itself was not built on survival of the strongest, but the unity of the connected. On Earth, children began dreaming of distant worlds where kindness reigned and war was only a memory. Humanity had done what no civilization before them had managed. They had turned emotion into evolution, will into weapon, and empathy into the language of the cosmos. The stars were no longer silent. They whispered with life, each one echoing the same message that began on a small blue planet. We are not afraid. We are one. And somewhere, deep in the farthest corner of space, an ancient civilization received the message. Their leaders gathered, confused, hearing a rhythm unlike any machine's, a heartbeat that carried warmth and sorrow and hope all at once. One elder turned to the others and said, "It's not just a message. It's life itself." And as they listened, the pulse grew stronger, reaching yet another world, and another, until the entire galaxy seemed to breathe in time with Earth. The age of war was fading. The age of connection had begun. Humanity's true weapon had awakened the stars.